Hey everyone, this is a quick preview of Activity 4.2 looking at direct and indirect characterization. So as usual with Nearpod, once you're in, you'll want to click the little blue arrow on the side. This is just a preview image. It'll look a little bit different in your device. So our first screen is about our objectives. So in this activity, I will examine the differences between indirect and direct characterization. This is really going to be important to us because we are looking a lot at characterization when it comes to our play Antigone. We're going to be looking at the different characters Sophocles creates and why he makes them act the way that he does. It's similar to how we looked at Okonkwo's characterization at the beginning of Things Fall Apart to really understand who he is as a warrior, as a father, and as an Igbo man. So having a computer device is of course going to be essential for this. Springboard will be useful for looking at as well. This is going to be the same activity as activity 4.2 in Springboard. And having headphones will be nice unless you want your family to learn about characterization as well. Why not? In our very next slide, you're going to be matching each term with its correct definition. So as you can see, we have three terms here: indirect characterization, direct characterization, and complex character. So it's up to you to decide which of these terms matches with these definitions down here. So you're going to click on one, click on the other, and see if you are right. And if you have your Springboard book with you, it should make it all the more easier for you to look at the definitions on the page. On our next slide, this is the video part of our lesson. This is looking at characterization through the movie Frozen. So this is a YouTube video. If you click the button right here, it's going to take you through watching the video and looking at the examples. Funnily enough, when we get to read Antigone, we are also going to be taking a look at two sisters like Anna and Elsa, and see how they disagree or not work together in a way you might expect toward their shared goals. On our next slide, again talking about direct versus indirect characterization, it says earlier we learned about characterization, which includes the methods a writer uses to describe characters and reveal their personalities. To expand on that definition, two types of characterization that help writers create complex characters are direct and indirect characterization. So we're going to be practicing with these on the next few slides. So here's an open-ended question. Make sure you wait for it to completely load. And in this one, you're going to have a text box down here to type in. So it asks you to think of a memorable and complex character from a book or film, and it needs to be one who is really major. They advance the plot, they make things happen, or they contribute to a theme, a big idea. So down below, you're going to give us the character and list three adjectives to describe them. So it gives us an example here. It talks about Okonkwo. So if we have Okonkwo here, Okonkwo. Let's give him three different adjectives. So they said Okonkwo is prideful. We can add that. So Okonkwo is a prideful, maybe angry, and violent man. There we go. Got our three adjectives. Now for each adjective you use, you also are going to need to explain. So for each adjective, explain why you attribute this trait to the character. Why do we say Okonkwo is prideful? Why do we say he's angry? Why do we say he is sometimes violent? And you need to determine whether that is direct or indirect characterization. So we have an example up here. It says Okonkwo is a prideful person. So that was one of these, because of his success, his strength, his wealth, and his wives. So they've explained why they think he's prideful. Then it says this is based on indirect characterization. So it doesn't say in the book, Okonkwo is a prideful person. He is proud of his strength. He's proud of his wealth. He's proud of his wives. No, you can tell that because of how he acts and how he speaks and how he treats other people. So once you have your answer in, make sure you're hitting the blue submit button at the bottom of the page and move on to our next piece. So this is a section from the book. It's a little bit hard to see here because we have the directions, but this is a table directly from the book, and it's going to give you different methods of character development. So these first two are going to be examples of indirect characterization. This one focusing on things the character says, their dialogue. This one is focusing on the character's thoughts. And then we have an example. And what can you infer? What can you tell from this? So if we look up here, it says from the information authors share about characters, active readers make inferences to help their understanding. So these examples here we're going to see are about the character Eliza Summers, and this is from the story Daughter of Fortune. So you're going to use the text button at the bottom of the screen to put your text box in here. So if I read this, okay, this is dialogue. She says, I am 18 and I am not looking for gold, only my brother Joaquin, she repeated. So you might look at some clues there. Okay, she says her age. She says what she is not looking for. She's not looking for gold. Why would she say that? She talks about her brother. She's looking for her brother, so clearly she doesn't know where he is. And she repeated that. So whoever she's talking to maybe didn't accept her first answer, or something else happened that she would have to repeat that. So you can hit the little text box feature down here. I'm going to choose black text. Grab my little cross right there. Stick it in there and let us know. Okay, I can infer that she... So here you can put some things. What do you think of her as a person? What situation do you think she's in? Those are all inferences that you can do. Once you have your first one, you can again go down here, make yourself another text box, and you're going to do the same thing, but this time looking at her thoughts. So I can infer that she, and whatever your inferences are. So once you are all set with those, you can move on to your next slide, which is going to have some more examples. So here we have 1, 2, 3 more examples of indirect characterization, and we have one more of direct characterization. So this is going to focus on the character's actions. This is going to focus on comments or thoughts by other characters. In this case, a character called Tao Qian is going to talk about Eliza. This is going to talk about the character's appearance. So they're going to be doing things to her hair and her clothes to make her look a certain way. Think about why they would need to do this. What's the situation going on? How does she normally look? And down here, we're going to see comments directly from the narrator. So why is the narrator telling you this about Eliza? What can that tell us later in the story? Just like the previous slide, you're going to use your text box tool to go to each little box and put down what you can infer. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces in here. On this next slide, this is a place where you can share your ideas. It says, what specific details helped you get to know this character? So if you take a look down here, you can put your thoughts or images. Maybe you can talk about her hair makes me think that, or maybe her thoughts, such as, maybe you have a quote in there, make me infer. So these are a couple ideas you can put in. It would be useful if you have your notebook to maybe jot down some things from this section so you can remember what you'd like to put in here. You can also upload an image. So this picture button right here, if you click it, you can search for images that maybe talk about those specific details, and then make sure you hit post at the end so we can see it. And if you're doing this later on in the week, you should also see other contributions by your classmates to help give you some ideas. Based on those details, make an inference about Eliza. So if you talked just about the specific details here and a little bit of what you thought, here's where you can go deeper. So what do you think is going on? I think she is dealing with, I think her brother is, what's going on with her life? What's going on with her as a person? So there's not going to be any more details here. There's just going to be your inferences. And same thing as before, you can also include a picture and then make sure you hit the post button. Here's an open-ended question. Make sure you're waiting for the animation to go through. And we have a little picture with this one with some memorable characters you can think about. So it says, pick a novel or story you've read to write about. Then, in a well-developed paragraph, 5 sentences at least, describe how the author of that novel or story uses both direct and indirect characterization. You can also have direct evidence if you have access to the story, but summaries are fine. So again, if you want to talk about Okonkwo, Okonkwo in Things Fall Apart was developed by Chinua Achebe to represent blah blah blah. He uses direct characterization when he says he uses indirect characterization to show. So we should have a couple of sentences here. So make sure you're letting us know the differences between the two and what it says about that character. So if you don't have the book in front of you to have quotes, you could probably at least remember some things the narrator definitely said or things that are very, very clear about the character versus the ideas you have to get based on what you see. And as always, make sure you hit the submit button. And then at the end, that's it. You've learned about direct and indirect characterization, and you are set for this part of the assignment for the week. Please let us know if you have any questions, and hopefully this overview was useful to you. Bye!